Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a concept that is absolutely everywhere right now, the law of attraction. Now, we aren't here to take sides or tell you what you should or shouldn't believe. Instead, we're going to take an objective, highly structured deep dive to break down the history, the mechanics, and the science behind this massive cultural phenomenon, strictly relying on the data and the historical record.
Okay, let's dive into this. Can you simply think your way to success? That is the central promise of manifestation, right? Today, we're going to reverse engineer this whole idea. We're peeling back the layers from its current viral status on social media all the way back to its highly surprising medical origins in the 19th century. Section 1. The Modern Manifestation Craze. If you've been anywhere near social media in the 2020s, you have definitely encountered this exact concept, lucky girl syndrome. It's basically the belief that you can attract luck, money, and love just by repeating mantras and truly believing the universe is conspiring to help you. So why did this suddenly blow up with Gen Z on TikTok? Well, psychology experts suggest that in an era of constant bad news, from economic crises to global conflicts, this trend offers a much-needed sense of agency and control. It's kind of a psychological tool for young people to feel like they have power over their own destiny when the outside world just feels completely chaotic. But here's the thing. This TikTok trend is really just a rebranding of an older, incredibly successful idea. Back in 2006, Rhonda Byrne released a book and a documentary film called The Secret. And it became an absolute media phenomenon, selling millions of copies and dragging the concept of manifestation out of niche spiritual circles right into the mainstream masses. Yet, even The Secret was drawing on a framework that had been established long, long before. Section 2. What is it exactly? So the crucial point is, how do advocates believe this actually works in practice? It really comes down to 3 interconnected steps. First up, cognitive reframing. Actively replacing your self-destructive or limiting thoughts with empowered, positive ones. Second is creative visualization. You don't just briefly think about a goal, you vividly and consistently picture it. And third, emotional resonance. Proponents argue you have to actively feel the emotion of having already achieved that desired outcome. Advocates basically believe that thoughts act like a universal algorithm. By combining clear visualization with deep emotional resonance, you supposedly match the energy of your desire to attract it right into reality.
Now, what's really fascinating here is just how far back this goes. Listen to this quote from 1912. Over a century ago, an author named Charles Hannell wrote, "The law of attraction will certainly and unerringly bring to you the conditions, environment, and experiences in life corresponding with your habitual, characteristic, predominant mental attitude." This clearly shows us that the core idea that thoughts are pure energy that attract like energy has actually been formally defined for well over 100 years.
Section 3. Ancient Roots and New Thought.
You see, this movement didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It synthesized some incredibly diverse religious and philosophical traditions. It drew from Renaissance Hermeticism and alchemy, adapting the ancient idea that the mind can literally transform matter. It leaned heavily on New England transcendentalism and that whole concept of mind over matter. It also incorporated concepts from Hinduism, which were brought to the United States in the late 19th century by figures like Swami Vivekananda. And it even utilized biblical verses like Mark 11:24, which explicitly speaks of believing you have received what you pray for. So it was a true melting pot of global philosophies.
But the specific historical catalyst for the modern manifestation movement, that is actually quite surprising. In the early 19th century, a clockmaker named Phineas Quimby was diagnosed with tuberculosis. Now, medicine at the time had absolutely no reliable cure for this. However, Quimby noticed that intense excitement and positive mental states temporarily relieved his physical pain. This observation sparked a massive mind-over-body movement. He began to argue that disease was often a physical manifestation of negative beliefs, which effectively laid the groundwork for what would eventually become known as the New Thought movement.
Section 4. The bestseller boom.
And this brilliantly illustrates the direct, fascinating lineage we're looking at. We start with Quimby's mind cure in the early 1800s. By 1855, the actual term law of attraction was first used in print by Andrew Jackson Davis. Then, in 1886, Prentice Mulford applied this concept to general life success, not just physical health.
After that, we hit the massive commercialization phase. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich in 1937, which paved the exact path for Rhonda Byrne's The Secret in 2006. It evolved directly, step by step, from a fringe health theory into the absolute foundation of modern self-help. Just to highlight the sheer, undeniable scale of this bestseller boom, 100 million. By 2015, Napoleon Hill's 1937 book, Think and Grow Rich, had sold an estimated 100 million copies worldwide. Think about that. This isn't just a niche internet trend. This is a foundational pillar of a multi-billion-dollar global self-help industry. Section 5, Pseudoscience and Toxic Positivity. This brings us right to the modern debate. On one side, proponents claim that thoughts are pure energy, and that brainwaves literally emit a magnetic attraction that pulls physical reality toward you. On the other side, however, the scientific consensus is incredibly firm. Physicists like Victor Stenger and Nobel laureate Leon Lederman have rigorously dismissed this as unmeasurable pseudoscience. They argue that the movement fundamentally misrepresents the laws of nature, labeling these claims as quantum mysticism that lack any demonstrable empirical scientific basis whatsoever. And that leads to some serious psychological reality checks. Empirical research, like a major 2023 psychological study, shows this really fascinating paradox. While believers in manifestation often perceive themselves as more successful, they are actually highly susceptible to negative risk factors, which includes increased financial risk-taking and significantly higher rates of bankruptcy. Furthermore, critics point out a pretty dark flip side. If you believe you attract absolutely everything in your life, it logically leads to victim blaming, suggesting individuals are completely at fault for their own illnesses or accidents. Finally, educators warn that it can completely diminish the value of actual hard work and perseverance. Harper's Bazaar summarized this critical perspective powerfully, warning of what they call toxic positivity. They noted, it ignores the fact that life is not fair. It doesn't take into account the systemic and structural biases and inequalities that exist in the world. From this objective viewpoint, the ability to simply manifest success can sometimes be a mindset of privilege that completely ignores the harsh realities of societal structures and economic inequality. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to conclude our explainer. Where exactly is the line between healthy optimism and magical thinking? Today, we've traced this concept from viral TikTok trends all the way back to 19th century tuberculosis cures. We've examined its incredibly empowering appeal, as well as its harsh scientific and psychological criticisms. Ultimately, the true power of positive thinking might just depend on whether you use it to inspire your own disciplined hard work, or if you simply sit back and wait for the universe to do the heavy lifting for you. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning the information around you.